Hello and welcome to Star Wars Stay on Target Episode 2, the increasingly long-titled look at the Star Wars universe from GamesRadar Plus. With me today are Dave Bradley, the Group Editor-in-Chief of Total Film and SFX, Rosie Fletcher, the Editor of Total Film. I'm Richard Edwards, I'm the Editor of SFX. This week we're going to be taking a look at the anthology movies that are sitting alone from the episodes, episodes 7, 8 and 9, but also we're going to look at the news before that. And since last week we've actually seen quite a lot of new news because Vanity Fair has put out its Star Wars issue, new photos, new character news, and I think the biggest news of all is that Jar Jar Binks might be in episode 7.
Yeah, but the remains of Jar Jar Binks.
J.J. Abrams seems to be sort of playing to the fans a little bit.
I'm going to feel cheated if I don't actually see him eviscerated on screen. In all honesty, I don't. His bones in the desert aren't enough, which is what's being rumoured, isn't it? Or what he said.
Yeah, J.J. said that basically he would like to just have something in the background for the fans to look out for.
I think there's going to be lots of that, though, isn't there? All the stuff we saw in the trailer was full of stuff the fans of Star Destroyer crashed on the desert planet and so on. So
are we saying that that Jar Jar Binks has crash landed on a planet?
Crashed underneath a Star Destroyer, because frankly, if I was the director, and I hope JJ's taking notice, I would have Jar Jar Binks crushed by a Star Destroyer crashing into a planet. That's probably why they were there. Me's are
gonna die. Bang. Yeah. Anyway, there is actually some proper news though in this, isn't there? We've actually found out a little bit about the characters and who people are playing, because now we know that Adam Driver is indeed playing Kylo Ren.
Yes, and of course, so the Vanity Fair was a shoot by Annie Leibovitz, of course, and so we see the first really clear picture of Adam Driver in his full.
It's really cool, actually. I think we've got that picture. Yeah. I mean, here he is. So he's clearly involved with the First Order, which is what we think the Empire is evolving into, and he's with some snowtroopers here.
Giveaway by the all-black
although can I just say, this photograph's very ambiguous. He could be being escorted to them to a cell or something. I mean,
but look at his face. Look at those eyebrows.
Absolutely, no, definitely. And you need a villain all dressed in black. He's obviously playing that kind of Darth Vader role, and it's him as well in the trailer doing the
Force thing. And it's interesting, I think, that we're actually seeing him here without a mask on,
right? And
so it implies that he's not going to have the obviously he's not going to have the mask on all the time.
Well, it's true. He's a very striking figure, actually. Adam Driver. He's quite a tall bloke, and quite an imposing.
Aren't you a little bit tall for a stormtrooper?
Also, I mean, he's got an interesting walk. I mean, we just saw that from the famous shot of Kylo Ren walking away in the very first trailer. But quite different to Darth Vader. Very long, willowy, almost more Chewbacca in the way he walks, I guess.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one because, of course, I think he's probably best known for Girls at the minute, and again, and he's also done some film roles. This Is Where I Leave You, he was in as well. But
Inside Llewyn Davis.
And Inside Llewyn Davis, of course. But he's
great
playing
voice.
Lovely, very deep voice. But we're not used to him playing a villainous character. We're used to him being quite warm. But I think this image certainly sets up quite an imposing and also quite a young villain in many ways, which is quite interesting.
True, very, very, very true. Also, just while we're talking about this, so the Annie Leibovitz pictures, Vanity Fair revealed these, and Annie Leibovitz is obviously a famous photographer, most famous photographer in the world, I guess. However, I'm going to be controversial and say that I don't think they feel like it. The photographs just look like special shots of people from Star Wars. I don't think they needed Annie Leibovitz to take them, did they? I mean, what do you think?
Well, this is the thing. So if you're J.J. Abrams and you've got basically the most important property in cinema in the next year, then you can pretty much have everything. And of course you're going to have Annie Leibovitz do your photography.
Money is no object. Who shall I have?
Exactly. Who do I want?
I want the Queen taking my photos.
If someone else had taken them, they might not be as good.
Well, true.
I mean, also we do know some more about some of the we're presuming baddies, because we know that Gwendolyn Christie is playing the Silver Stormtrooper, Captain Phasma.
Captain Phasma.
Phaser, as I keep calling it.
How cool does that look?
Yeah. Well, talking of imposing figures.
And she's used to walking around in armour.
In a suit of armour, absolutely. True. Yeah. Well, so the it's obviously really striking. We saw for the first time in the trailer, but the Captain Phasma was rumoured for ages, and now we know that's been confirmed with the recent story. So the rumours are on the internet. I read that she's going to be a sort of enforcer hunting down.
Finn, the stormtrooper.
Yeah, who is a stormtrooper who goes rogue. So that's what they're saying her role in it's going to be. Of course, when we see her in the trailer, she's marching towards the camera and surrounded by fire and so on. This is a much more static imagery, but she's standing in front of ruins there, and it's not entirely clear whether quite fantastical actually. That looks like she could be in a Game of Thrones set.
So you mean Captain Fantastic?
Yeah. So is it that she's just attacked that place or whatever? But I think it's a very sort of is a very Game of Thrones type shot for her actually. Yeah.
I know we haven't got a picture yet as well, but we have also heard that Lupita Nyong'o from 12 Years a Slave, we know who she's playing now.
So she's a CGI character, isn't she? So we've seen
motion character. So we've seen her with the dots on her face, but not really the character. She's apparently playing a pirate called Maz Kanata. Now, apologies, I do not know yet if that's how we pronounce it.
Kanata.
It depends which part of the UK you come from. But
what's the matter, Maz Kanata? I hope that's her catchphrase.
But interesting that she's a pirate. And the Vanity Fair's got a very, very interesting picture of sort of aliens that she'll be hanging out with. So it looks like she might be the Jabba the Hutt type role.
A hive of scum and villainy. Yeah, it's proper Cantina vibe about it, hasn't it?
Which was something we lacked from Phantom Menace and the prequels, I think.
Right.
Very few wretched hives and scum and villainy. So yes, now there's also other news from this week, which is that Josh Trank, who was directing the second Anthology movie for 2018, has left the movie. He is cited that he basically decided that he didn't want to do it and couldn't give it.
Pursuing other creative projects,
so
I think is what
that's interesting. I mean, Josh Trank, he directed Chronicle, he directed Fantastic. He's directing the Fantastic Four movie, which we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, Chronicle was an incredible debut feature. He was a really promising kind of director, but he is quite untested. And Fantastic Four is a very promising film. And I'm really looking forward to it. But again, I think only having one film under your belt to take on a franchise as big as this is quite an undertaking, I think.
Although Gareth Edwards doesn't have that much to his
name. Well, he did have
Godzilla
there. I mean, that's the thing. That was still a multi-million.
But Ryan Johnson, who directed Looper, who's directing Episode 8, he again is a kind of almost left field choice. But their thing with this seems to be they're picking young directors who love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
But interesting what they do. Anyway, if you come back in a moment, we're going to be talking a bit more about the Anthology movies and what we can expect from them. Well, as you can see, a moon has appeared behind me.
That's no moon.
Thank you, you delivered. Yes, the first of the Anthology movies will be about Planet Rebels stealing the Death Star plans, which is very cool. Yes, so Anthology movies, they sit separate from episodes 7, 8 and 9. And basically the idea, I think, is they tell other bits of the Star Wars universe. Now, this is great, isn't it? The idea that we're going to find out about how the Rebels got the Death Star plans before Star Wars, the original movie. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, of course, this was announced at Anaheim Star Wars Celebration, where we also saw that teaser of the ship flying over the jungle planet. It was also, by the way, that was when we heard that Josh Trank. Well, we suspected because he didn't show up, did he? I didn't show up, yeah. But that is interesting, and it also places it firmly back in the continuity of the original trilogy. So they're going, whereas J.J. Abrams' movie is set 30 years in the future, this is set, months in the past. No, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, and so as we were saying before, Gareth Edwards is the director, and he's a young British director, obviously, who made Monsters, which was his debut and made for a very low budget. It was about 15,000, I think, but had crazy kind of ambitions. And then, of course, from that to Godzilla, which was great. Well, had some problems actually, but still. But he has talked a bit about
great bits as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the monsters were great in Godzilla, but perhaps the characterization less.
Yes.
But with this, it looks like he's going back to me to more to kind of monsters territory. So he's talked a lot about how perhaps some of the other Star Wars films were quite a lot about good and evil, black and white, whereas this is a bit more grey areas and a bit more ambiguous and a bit more gritty. Yeah,
absolutely. And of course, also he said at Celebration that whereas the main films are about Force power, so the Jedi versus Sith, the Anthology movies are places where they can talk about the people outside of that. So we're not even expecting to see any Jedi in this. It's going to be very much about boots on the ground, right?
Yeah.
But not technically Jedi, Darth Vader, Sith. He is in play at this point, so he could be doing some enforcing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. Of course, yeah.
Well, if you think
all the characters are in play.
I mean, that's one thing. If you think about. If you're wanting recognisable characters in your movie, you can't put Darth Vader. Well, we don't think you can in Episode 7 because he went up in smoke. But here, you've got your most iconic character who could potentially be in it.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Difficult to put Harrison Ford back in the.
Yes, but I mean, he's not really involved with the rebellion at the beginning of the movie. Right. But it sounds like there's this army vibe to it. I mean, that what we saw at Star Wars Celebration suggests you've got rebel soldiers under attack. The Rogue One title, I think, is very evocative of the original trilogy with like Rogue Squadron and stuff, and casting as well. Very interesting that the lead is Felicity Jones.
Yes, so she's obviously a British actress. Very well known for very naturalistic performances. So I mean, of course, she was like awards nominated for her role in The Theory of Everything, of course. But before that, she did a couple of movies with this guy Drake Doremus, which were very, very naturalistic. So I think she's going to be quite an interesting choice for this.
Absolutely. Well, bear in mind that with episode 7 also having Max von Sydow in it, although he's one person we don't know what role he's going to have yet. These new Star Wars films have carried on a tradition, because when you go back to the original Star Wars, it had Ben Kenobi and Grand Moff Tarkin were played by characters who were very credible at the time, and so whether or not we were expecting to see Alec Guinness play this kind of crazy old wizard in the desert at the time, and I think maybe actors who have got form in other films bringing something to this is something
right. But I mean, so also Riz Ahmed and Ben Mendelsohn.
Yes, I don't think they've been officially confirmed, but it's like one of those. Yeah, looks very, very likely.
But again, kind of credible indie actors. Ben Mendelsohn's Australian, Riz Ahmed's British as well. And with Gareth Edwards at the lead, I'm wondering if this is going to be sort of have a more indie vibe than perhaps.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see. Just different kind of shooting. I mean, I think it's quite interesting as well with this movie that it isn't like a prequel. Everyone was talking beforehand that it might be a Yoda or a Han Solo prequel, and then the first one that they've announced is very much separate from everything. It's something that we weren't expecting. I think that's quite interesting.
It is interesting, but although now you brought that up, of course, the next anthology film, which would have been Josh Trank's, they're saying now, well, the rumours are that it'll be a Boba Fett origin story.
So, and do you think they're going to pick another very credible indie director, a newcomer?
I think they might do. Yeah, it seems to be what they're going for. Just the whole vibe of what Lucasfilm is doing. I mean, even J.J. Abrams, who to call a sort of young up-and-coming director seems silly, given what he's done, but he's still Star Wars generation. He's someone who grew up on this. He probably wouldn't be making movies if it wasn't for Star Wars. And I think they're kind of casting people like that, aren't they?
Right. Though I kind of want them to go out on a limb and just cast someone, or rather put someone in the role of director who's just completely unexpected. Well, Baz Luhrmann, Star Wars. I'd hate to see that.
Lars von Trier.
Yeah, right.
Or David Lynch, which very nearly happened on Return of the Jedi.
Is that right? Actually, I didn't know that. That's interesting. That would be funny. But although I think that one of the things I've seen people shouting about on Twitter is how much they'd like to see Joss Whedon be involved in the Star Wars universe now he's done with Avengers. Is that a good thing?
Nora Ephron would have been a good choice. But Joss Whedon maybe, but in a way he's kind of put his stamp on Avengers, and I almost think maybe he's in a different sphere now. I mean, I'm interested in Gareth Edwards, and but it might be nice to see someone like, for example, Gareth Evans, who made the Raid movies, or Damien Chazelle, who made Whiplash, which I was a huge fan of.
That would be really confusing in the That would be really confusing in the Lucasfilm office, though. Yeah, Gareth Evans. No.
But that would be great. And there was a rumour for a while that the actors from the Raid were cast in.
Yes, well, that still might be the case, because the idea was that there's stuff at being filmed motion capture at Andy Serkis's Imaginarium Studios, and there are a lot of people talking about maybe they've done some of that. So that would be very interesting to see.
Yeah. But they weren't revealed in the Vanity Fair photo shoot.
I think they're saving a lot of these reveals up for. We've got what? We've got 7-8 months now till the movie comes out. There's a lot to talk about. And yes, we will be back to talk about more Star Wars next week in episode 3 of Stay on Target. Until then, may the Force be with you.
That was a pretty sweet video, right? If you want to see more, go to GamesRadar's YouTube page over here. Or if you want to read, maybe up your game a little bit, go to GamesRadar.com.